My name's Elinor Hamilton, and I'm one of those faceless, anonymous voices you can hear all day long on the London Underground.
The next train to Stanmore will arrive in 1 minute.
My husband is too.
Mind the gap.
We're a real-life married couple providing automated voice announcements all over the place, but one of us is dead. Phil passed away in 2016, but we still work together, and I love that. You can hear our story in episode 1, but I'm interested in every familiar voice you hear when we're out and about. These real people that sometimes you shout at have all sorts of stories to tell, which is why I wanted to share their tales from the Tannoy. The voice featured in this episode is the silky smooth lady who follows you around supermarkets and department stores telling you what offers are on this week.
Asda's Good and Balanced range. Find them in the chilled ready meal aisle today.
You'll definitely have heard her on the TV and radio too, and in other places, some that she can't actually talk about. She's everywhere, hiding in plain sight, but she can't always tell you where. Katy Moore, it's great to have you here with us, sounding so gloriously competent, but things haven't always been quite so plain sailing, have they? Where do we start?
From a standing start, basically, I had been to drama school and thought I was going to finally be an actress. Did a bit of telly, did some repertory theatre, it was all good. But I married my then boyfriend and had 2 children quite quickly afterwards because he was a bit older than me, like 16 years older than me, a bit like your film.
Well,
and,
you're at amateur level, I'm afraid. It was 25 years between us, but, it's not a competition.
Basically, I just thought I'd be putting my acting on hold for a while. I certainly wouldn't be doing any theatre, but I'd be doing bits of telly. And they were coming in, the classic, The Bill, Holby City, all that kind of thing.
Excellent.
So I thought, well, that's all right. I'll do the kid thing and then maybe I'll go back into theatre because I loved it so much.
Did you spend a lot of time on trolleys and Casualty? I mean, the television Casualty, not the real Casualty.
Dear God, love. No, I was a psychiatrist.
Oh, really?
Yes.
Excellent.
Yeah. No, I wasn't a sick person. No, it was a bit like upstairs, downstairs. I was up. I wasn't down, no.
I should think so too.
Although I was in a car crash in The Bill.
Oh, really?
That was very shouty.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Gosh.
I look back now and I think it probably was a bit inappropriate. There was some sort of immigrant person driving a truck of toxic waste.
Oh, really?
Down the Westway, yeah.
God.
And he smashed into me.
Right.
And part of the problem being that he didn't speak any English, so we was like, I don't think we'd get away with that.
You probably wouldn't, and rightly so.
And neither should we.
No, but I different times.
Different times. Yeah, they gave me my mother, who was also in the car with me, who then stopped breathing.
Oh, no.
She was about 4'9", and I'm 5'9", and she was Chinese. So and I'm not Chinese. So there were gaping holes in that programme, but we loved it.
But there's a bit of artistic licence.
Yeah.
Who cares?
Yeah. So I was basically at home. I didn't have a job. I used to be in advertising and my husband was a media buyer. So I was kind of aware of what he was doing work-wise. He was in London until 9/11 and then he decided he wanted to be at home more. So he brought his experience of advertising to the West Country.
Right.
And so we started to do bits and bobs and I would help occasionally. And then one day, very suddenly, he went out on his motorbike and was hit by a car and died instantly. He broke his neck, I think. I don't know too many details. I was told best not to know.
Wow.
So it was one of those things where you just sort of, I'll see you later. I've cooked lunch, come back for Sunday lunch. And literally I never saw him again.
Wow.
So I was sort of left with no job, no money, 2 small children. My eldest was 3.5 and my youngest was just 2 weeks off her first birthday.
Wow.
And I sort of look back now and think, what happened? How did I live through that? What did I do? And I realised it was just a very slow emerge, I think.
Yeah.
But what I instantly did, I think out of sheer fear and panic, was... So he died on the Sunday. There was bank holiday Monday. And the phone started ringing on Tuesday. He had adverts that needed to go out, commercials that had been recorded. There was newspaper ads in most of the large newspapers going in, and they needed to go out. So it was like, okay, so I basically sort of sat there and my brain went into a tunnel.
Yeah.
Of, okay, well, I just got to get past this bit, get that out there, add there. And it was like, I felt like I was being driven. I don't know if you felt like that after Phil died.
Totally.
I didn't know.
And I think you're in a different place,
was.
aren't you? You just have to focus on this. And actually, I think that your perception of what's important changes. And I don't mean necessarily for the better. I just mean that you think, I've got to do this. I mean, I remember when Phil was dying and his most important thing was we have to let our clients know and we need to kind of close the business down carefully. Now, anybody else would look at us and go, just take the, because we had the privilege, I suppose, of knowing that he was dying and we had that time. But, did it matter if these adverts didn't get made? But actually to us it did.
But see, that's the curse of working from home.
Yeah.
That's the curse of being self-employed is that you are never off, ever, I think, because there is that, it's what we talked earlier off mic about 0 hours contracts and things like that. If you live hand to mouth as we do, there is no off. So you kind of have different set of priorities. You
do. And I think you need a purpose as well. You just, can you imagine the idea of just sitting down? I'm often quite grateful for the fact that, like you, I was kind of, I suppose, left with nothing because you have to create your something.
Exactly.
And the gratitude that I have for Phil, and I'm sure that you have for Tony as well, is that they left us with something to do.
Yeah. Well, and two babies, thanks very much. I don't.
Cheers, guys.
Thanks for that one.
How's it going up there? Have you had a beer yet? Oh, no. But I think that your brain just goes into whatever it has to do in order to... It's a
flight or fight.
Fight or
flight, that one.
That one, yeah.
And it's quite interesting. I've always said that, and I don't know how this comes across, but I didn't have the luxury of a grief. And I know that sounds a bit like, but...
No, I know exactly what you mean.
I absolutely... I couldn't collapse in front of the kids. It would and did, because obviously you can't control it. Scared them a lot, they're babies. And... and that didn't stop after the first 6 months to a year. It went on for years.
No,
where
of course not.
You just suddenly kind of the unfairness, the sadness, the tsunami would hit you in the supermarket, in your car, picking them up at home, cooking tea. All of a sudden, when you can't answer their maths questions. Yeah, he could have done that. I can't do this. Why is this happening to me? There's a whole lot of self-pity that does come into it.
Well, it does, but actually, you've got every right to feel self-piteous. You've had your.
But you see, I'm looking back now.
Yeah,
I'm not in it. I wasn't self-pity at the time, but looking back, you're thinking, Basically, could I have done this any other way? The answer is no, because you just had to get through it in whatever way you got through it. Because if your daughter was 2 weeks off her birthday, how was that? Because you will still have been in the whole... I mean, had he had his funeral by then? How did you cope with... Her birthday was the day after his funeral. Wow. Do people just stay on for the after party or what? Yeah, do you know what? I live in a village and I've cursed this village many times and for lots of reasons. I find it sometimes a bit closed-minded, that's all. But I can't fault the generosity and the loveliness that was shown to me when this happened. I think it it struck a chord with a lot of people in the village because for some reason there seemed to be a lot of young families here at the time. And when something like this happens, I think there is a lot of empathy and a lot of love and coming from a place of fear as well. Because no one likes to confront the actual reality of a close death. No. You sort of know it's there, but it's a bit like eating meat. You know what it is, but you don't think about it. It's like it comes in a little sort of sanitised pack. Exactly. And if people actually went to their place in the brain where it's actually a reality that you and I have experienced that reality, it's tantamount to madness. Yeah. Really. So all the people in the village, all the mums from the nursery were amazing because they had all come to the funeral. We had a bouncy castle at the funeral because they were all the people I knew from the village and who knew Tony had kids, small kids, and they couldn't, it was a Friday and what were they going to do with these children? They had to pick them up at lunchtime. So it was like, well, we'll have a kids' party. I mean, honestly. Well, why not? And do you know what? When it's my turn to have a funeral, I like to think there will be a bouncy castle and lots of fizz. I'll remember that now that you said it. It's down there now. It's out there. And everybody knows. Do you want foam?
Oh, God, yeah.
Folk party. So yeah, we had that. I wanted Daisy, who was obviously knew her dad, to try and remember that particular day in some kind of brightness.
Yeah.
I know that sounds crazy. I mean, the whole thing's crazy. You don't know whether you're making the right decisions.
No, of course
you don't know
not.
whether you're damaging them or helping them. But I didn't want them sitting down and just being touched by the sadness as much as they were sad anyway. It was like we're all getting together because we love your dad and try to make it something positive out of something really hideous. And everybody was wearing pink and yellow and blue, no black.
Yeah.
Definitely no black.
Good.
Terrifying seeing a sea of black clothes.
I think so, especially for a child.
For a child,
Yeah.
But I knew the kids needed to be there. That was important to me. They didn't come to the actual funeral; they just came to the party.
Yeah.
But what was interesting to me is I remember at that time this black hole in front of me, because when your partner dies, all those little things that you've talked about, like, oh, I'd love to go to Rome, or I'd love to have a holiday on a canal boat, or, all the kind of little incidentals that you talk
When
about.
you've got your whole life ahead of you.
Yeah. Oh, we talked about doing this or talked about it. Suddenly that is just not possible because you can't do it with them.
And your world closes in, doesn't it?
Yeah. It is literally the next day is a black day.
Yeah.
Because there's nothing in your diary, there's nothing in your life, there's nothing because you can't do it with them. And you don't really want to do anything else. So you start just doing the practical things. And working was the only practical thing I knew I could do. The kids needed me emotionally and I didn't have it for them. I hate to say it. I was grieving for him. I had his grief.
Of course.
As well, about this opportunity to have his children taken away.
Yeah.
And I was full up. Do you know what I'm saying? And so everything in my life became practical. And I threw myself into his business, again, out of fear. I needed the money,
But also maybe it was a way of feeling connected to him too.
Oh, totally. When I couldn't find a password for a particular account or something like that, and then it would suddenly appear to me, scribbled in a corner of a book, or on a sticky note somewhere on a shelf up the top, it was like playing a game with him. What was he going to show me next, And all I did was have to ask. It was a bit like cosmic ordering.
Yeah.
Like, Tony, where's that thing? So then from then, this was pre-broadband. So it was an ISDN line that came into the house to deal with all the large graphics for the magazines and the newspapers and things. And 6 months after he died, BT contacted me and said, oh, we've got this brand new thing. It's amazing. It's broadband. And would you like it? We'll cut off your ISDN. Just swap it over. And I knew, because I'd done a few recordings for him already, for commercials, that you need an ISDN line for something to do with voicing.
Yeah.
I don't know what it is. I don't know how it works. So I don't know why particularly. I think it was that thing about I want to be an actor.
Yeah.
If I cut off that ISDN, that's my only link to acting at the moment. I don't know what it does. I don't know what it means. But if I cut it off, I'm saying that I'm going to be working in advertising for the rest, for the foreseeable. And I think it was the lifeline I wasn't prepared to cut until, I'd considered it more.
Yeah.
I said, right, I'll give myself 6 months. I'll pay for this extra line that I don't need for 6 months. And if I find somebody that can help me technically, then it was meant to be.
Yeah.
And it was. I found a guy who had set up GWR stations, as was then, down the West Country. And I went to see him. I had cobbled together a demo and started picking up radio commercials. And it was a bit of a slow burn.
Yeah.
And so I was doing the advertising business and that at the same time. And then randomly decided to sell paint as well.
Right.
I had a couple. Well, it's just, I think it always fascinates me how things, if you're open to things, what paths you go down. My bedroom needed redecorating. I couldn't stare at those four walls anymore. It was our bedroom and he wasn't in it.
Yeah.
So it had to change. So anyway, we created a company called the Real Paint Box Company. So on top of all the other things I was doing, I was also standing in my garage, a cottage industry, painting A1 sheets with 273 different colours.
Wow.
Then cutting them up, putting them in these boxes, labelling it all up. And then we started to go to trade shows. We were selling them to interior designers as a kind of an add-on sale. So we would sell the paint through this box. Brilliant.
Right.
Simple idea. Worked a treat.
Excellent.
Until I reached the point of complete saturation overload. And I think that was the beginning of me going slightly mad. My theory was that if I ran really fast and kept so busy, I'd sleep at night, because sleeping at night when that's happened to you is impossible.
Of course.
And also when you've got small children who didn't sleep brilliantly before.
No.
They tend to catch your vibe.
Yeah.
And it was like a nightmare tag team. I had one that was allergic to milk, which I didn't know about. So she was up all night rolling around.
Right.
And the other one coming in because she was, 4 at the time, 4 or 5. They still come into your room. I mean, I don't know if that ever stops.
No, I don't think it does. I remember for a year, my boys and I used to take turns, and one of them would sleep on his daddy's side of the bed, it got to the point where after about a year, I just kind of said, look, guys, I think we need to just stop this now because
go away.
Because I've got a boyfriend.
and it's a bit weird with us all here together. Yes, I think I think you did the right thing, Ellie.
Yes, I think you're right. All in all, it probably wouldn't have worked very well.
Well, yeah, no, my 16-year-old came in the other day and she sort of woke me up in a deep sleep and woke me, looming over me like a spectre. I don't know, what is that about? Why don't they make some kind of entry noise? Knocking would be quite nice.
I know, because if you go into their rooms without knocking, my goodness me.
My God. What do you want? Go in. Yeah, no, she just was literally, her face was about a foot from mine. I'm surprised I didn't have a heart attack. Anyway, so that was the point where I was doing 3 solid businesses and it was all day, it was all night. I didn't have a minute. I was fearful.
Yeah.
And I thought, well, if I do lots of things, I can survive financially, because I've got to work for 2 people. I'll work for 3 people and then I got a little bit extra. It was like, well,
just work until you drop almost because,
And I did. I had a full year of psychiatric help, which was amazing, really amazing. I just was so lucky that I found the right person for me.
Were they as good as the psychiatrist that you played on Casualty?
No,
That's
God,
the most important question.
No. She could never have worn the Macs that I have worn on all my television performances, the way I wear a Mac. Yeah. And if you ever go to my showreel, you'll see that I'm not joking. Queen of one-liners and Macs.
Okay, we need to put a link to this showreel somewhere on the website so people can see it.
Up wearing a Mac. Yeah, it's all about the relationship, isn't it? And like any relationship, it's got to be the right person. And I'd had a few false starts. I'd had, counsellors to try and help me through it. And just, again, head to one side, kind of like, I can't help you, but I'm going to look as if I'm nodding, sort of thing.
Yeah. And people touch your left arm. They always stroke your left arm. I don't know why it's the left one, but they stroke your left arm. Always.
It's the right hand, left arm thing, isn't it?
That's true.
But then they tilt their head to the left. I'm being facetious.
Yeah, because people they don't know what to say.
Yeah.
And actually, I still don't know what to say. If I know somebody's going through a terrible time, I still don't know what to say. I just know that you have to say something and almost say, I don't know what to
say. Yeah, always say something. Even if you say, I don't know what to say. This is one of the worst things I've heard. Or, I'm just very worried about you or something. It's when they hide.
Yeah.
And
they cross the street when they see you coming.
I had many of those. Fortunately, it just made me laugh because at that moment in time, they felt worse than I did.
Yeah.
And it's natural. I can't say to you now I'm an expert on grief. I'm not. There are lots of things I can't possibly know what it would be like.
No, and everybody's grief is different as well.
I say to my friends or people that the grief is as personal as your relationship to the person that died.
Yes, it's true.
And that can't be filled. You and I both, I've recently remarried about 18 months ago after being on my own for 10 years, with cretinous boyfriends in between. Yeah. My ability to pick well after that was was bad.
Well, I think a lot of the time people are just in this sort of... you're very vulnerable, I think.
Yeah.
Very vulnerable.
Oh, yeah. I heard what I wanted to hear.
Yeah.
I didn't see what I should have seen.
But again, those relationships will have made you who you are. You know, they'll have led you...
I've got 2 wrinkles on my forehead to prove it. The
Just 2. Well done.
deep furrows of the questioning look. Did you really just say that to me? That kind of, what? That basically all of that just added to the kind of breakdown I think I had. But I would say that amount of therapy that I had once a week for a year is what made me the person that I am now, actually.
Yeah.
Because I don't recognise that other person. I mean, I do myself when I lost him.
Yeah.
But the person I became in those 10 years, that kind of manic, working, barely functioning mother
Yeah.
in awful relationships, didn't do me any good.
No.
And I know that I've met the lovely man I'm married to now because I was able to pull myself back out again.
And I think it's also about loving yourself as well, and knowing that you deserve that love from somebody else. Because I think that sometimes we can be in very toxic relationships because we just feel that we're not worthy, or you know, and obviously it's very difficult, I think, to bring bereaved children into any relationship anyway.
Oh, yeah.
You know, when you're trying to bring up kids who have been through a rough time, as yours have and mine have, you know, they're not going to be the easiest kids in the world. Well, I speak for my own. You know,
well, I've got 2 girls, so everything's much worse when they're older.
Everything's just much worse when they're girls.
When they're younger, you can sit them down with some felt pens and they're fine
yes,
for half an hour.
Yeah, that's true. Whereas my boys just raced around the house and beat the crap out of each other. So,
yeah, but then they'll absolutely adore you when they're slightly older, when they're sort of in their young manhood.
Okay, well, I look forward to that day.
Because girls can be toxic, so you put them in the oven when they're sort of 15. For God's sake, don't take them out again until they're fully cooked, which is around about 22.
Right, okay. So
take them out any earlier than that. You eat them and they can kill you.
Yeah. So you got a bit of time then. Oh, it's such fun.
Yeah. So basically what ultimately happened was I gave up the paint. I sold that. Mm-hmm. Bought myself a caravan.
Right.
With the money to be able to relax with my children, to take them away, which I did actually do. And that was a good thing, a great thing.
Okay.
I loved our little camping trips.
Yeah.
Plus also I was able to take it to Glastonbury, which is one of my loves.
Brilliant. Yeah.
And which is where I met my husband.
Right. Oh, I didn't know you'd met him at Glastonbury.
Yes. Very lovely. And then I slowly wound down Tony's business because by then I was voicing much more anyway. And I just didn't have it in me to keep going out looking for new clients. I really just wanted to do the voicing. And everybody seemed to think I was okay because they paid me. That was my rough benchmark.
Yep.
I did sort of spread a wide net. I did everything. It kept it kind of interesting for me as well. Did a bit of commercials, telephone stuff. I've done a lot of corporate work because I think I've been told my voice is reassuringly professional. So I get to tell people how to do things, which is amazing because in real life no one really takes much notice of me. And the irony is that the job that I'm most well known for, people listen to me a lot and I can't talk to you about it, which makes this interview a bit difficult.
Oh, well.
What I do love, though, is embarrassing my children.
Yes.
So, yeah, whenever my voice comes, I don't know, on the radio and there's a car full of people or in a supermarket or, oh, yes, and in the cinema once... Yeah, my youngest could have murdered me. They throw me a don't you dare look, which is like a red rag to a bull.
Had it.
I will either take a deep breath in or I copy what I'm saying very loudly. Yeah. Like, big brands add up to 60% less than the RRP. Big labels, small prices. Yep. But no one's listening. It's only because they're just acutely embarrassed that I live and breathe, I think. And I make them just fearful that I'm going to shout loudly, "That's me!" Do you know, that's me saying that. My youngest is the worst because it has been known to get close to the till and I can see her literally sweating. All good fun. I'd like to apologise to my children and anyone I may have offended in the last 48 years of my life. Yeah, pretty much everybody I've offended at some point with my loose black humour.
Well,
that's another thing.
Yes.
Black humour, very important.
Very important. When you're widowed, I think it's really important to just had any bad thing happen. You've got to laugh about it, because you will either cry or you'll laugh, and you get to the point. And I think that there are certain turning points. Did you find there was a turning point after Tony died where you'd managed to laugh about something that had happened in a very dark way, and you thought, oh yes, actually maybe I'm getting over this, kind of, in the street?
No, I remember laughing in a very black way, thinking, I think I've reached rock bottom. I think my statement then was possibly the worst thing I could have said. And then laughing about that. It was a lot of out-of-body experiences. But most of the time, I share a lot of humour, similar humour with my family. So a lot of it was dark. Really bad.
I remember, I think, the time that I realised that I was not over it, because you don't get over it, but you start to kind of find the silliness in the situation that you're in. And I remember once burning the chips, the oven chips. And getting them out in the oven.
Hold on, you're northern. Don't you fry them?
I know. You'd have thought so. Tried to be healthy. And I just looked at them and I said to my friend who was standing there, I said, "Oh, I like my chips like I like my husband's." We both just looked at each other and went, cremated.
Oh, that is excellent. Yeah, you see, that kind of humour I can go with.
Yeah.
But then
because you know full well that that's what they would have said.
Yes.
They would have had that joke as well.
But also, I think you feel every emotion. It isn't just, I feel sad. I feel, grief-stricken. You are in a maelstrom of everything. And laughter and humour is an emotion.
Yeah.
It's not just about being happy. It's about trying to get something out of your body. A laugh is like crying.
Yeah.
It's something that you just need to release. So I didn't feel bad about it. And also, I just thought I've got to get through this some way, and we're not allowed to take drugs.
More's the pity.
Exactly.
I was going to ask you, and we touched upon it before, where you said that every now and again you'd get a message from Tony. And I honestly think that I've had messages from Phil, and I sort of don't care whether it's him or not, but I like to think that it is. And I had a time when I used to go to his record collection very early on, and every time I pulled out a record, it would say something to me that really mattered. And I remember once I'd just been diagnosed with breast cancer, and I was feeling desperate, and I thought, what has he got to say to me? And I pulled out the record, and it was something like, I would if I could, but I can't. And then,
wasn't Agadoo then?
No. But then there was also, it had turned out that I needed to have a mastectomy and all this kind of stuff. The next record that I went to was a comedy record called Dolly Parton's Tits. And I just thought,
it wasn't.
It absolutely was. And I just thought, if this isn't his way of telling me that he's with me, he's, making me laugh, and I remember you telling me that you and Tony, you'd had little...
Two things that happened. I'll try and be brief, because basically when he died and started noticing in the house there were these feathers everywhere, little tiny ones. And just, be one here, and then a few hours later there might be another one over there.
Yeah.
To the point, about 4 or 5 days after he died, because the house was full, people. I remember shouting really loud, "What the fuck is the problem with all these feathers everywhere? Is there a duvet out or something, or a pillow? What's going on?" And it's like this slow motion of my friends and my family coming out of the rooms and coming up to me and going, "Yeah, we've been picking them up as well." I'm like, what is it? What's going on? She said, my friend said, "Oh God, who's the lovely Irish lady who lost her daughter to cancer?"
Oh, Karen Keating, Gloria Hunniford.
Gloria Hunniford.
Yeah.
Lovely Gloria, who wears makeup even on the radio, said that in her book that she had found all these feathers after Karen had died, and then learned that this was an actual thing, that people who are recently bereaved often notice white feathers lying around. And I didn't quite know what to make of that. I was like, yeah, okay.
Yeah.
I was a bit dismissive. And then it just went mad. It was intense. In the build-up to his funeral, we were finding them bigger.
Wow.
And had the funeral. Next day, of course, it was my daughter's birthday. And the villagers had been very sweet, and they'd made a picnic for us in the kids' park. That was a tough day, but everyone was lovely. Came back home. I said to my family, I'm just going to give the kids a bath, and I'll put them to bed. So did the bath, got them out of the bath. There was a wooden thing in our bathroom which we bought when we were in St Lucia on our honeymoon. It's got a St Lucian head,
Right.
big thing, probably about 2 feet tall. And as I leant over to pick one of the kids out, this thing just randomly fell off the wall and hit me on the side of the head. And I don't know about you, but you know, sometimes when you stub your toe and you're having a really bad day,
Yeah.
it's the straw that breaks
Yes.
the camel's back. Yeah. Well, that was the thing. Hit the side of my head. And I had a tsunami moment of, oh my God. So they kind of bundled in. We all went out of the bathroom. My friends came in, took the babies, went in, and we were in the bedroom sorting them out. And I thought, I think I'm bleeding. I'm just going to go and have a look. Went back into the bathroom, and there in the middle of the floor was the biggest, whitest, fluffiest feather.
Wow.
In a closed room. I wouldn't say that story if it wasn't true, put it that way.
No.
I don't know why. I don't know if it was, a sick member of my family trying to comfort me. I don't know.
I doubt it.
I don't care. I just found it was there, and it just made me think, you're here for her birthday.
Yeah. And it's so comforting, isn't it, to think that they're there somehow.
They just have to be.
They just so want to be there.
Yeah.
And I think that that's why you said earlier about carrying the grief of two people, and you are, because every moment, everything they achieve, everything they get wrong, you're only there on your own, and you so wish that they could be with you, and so do they.
He didn't mean to do this. No one, it wasn't a choice. And the sadness at their loss, you're the only one that can carry that.
Yeah.
And I felt at that moment very close to him. But I kept all the feathers, and actually when my daughter was doing her GCSE art textiles, she sewed them into a wall hanging with this sentence that I'm going to tell you, because this was the other story, which was, people kept saying to me, do you talk to him? Do you talk to him? And I was like, no, because he's not there. And I don't want to have same way I wouldn't go to a psychic, because I don't want an email from him. I want to talk to him. And if I start getting messages from beyond, I'll be going there every week.
Yeah.
So one night I sort of, whilst crying, howling into the wind, I think I just said, right, come on then, let's have this bloody conversation. What have you got to say about the shit you've left me in? I wasn't feeling very generous at the time. And I looked over, and by the side of the bed was the books that he had been reading at the time. He was a massive Neil Young fan. Ridiculous. Every album, even the really shit ones, he had. And he was reading his autobiography, and where it's marked. So I opened it up, and it goes back to what you were saying about songs. But a part of this book was that he kind of analysing where the songs had come from his life. And this one was called Birds. And I read it, and it was a story that his girlfriend had died on a motorbike accident, which I thought was, that was a bit heart-stopping in the middle of this conversation that I'm not having with my husband at the moment.
Wow.
Because he just died on a motorbike accident.
Yeah.
And I read through it, and it was how he felt about it, and how awful it was, and how sad he was that she wasn't able to do the things that she wanted to do, things like. So anyway, I thought, right, I better go and listen to this then, and I went through all his albums. Found it was an obscure one. Anyway, got it, and it was, it floored me. It was basically, I can't be with you. I want to be with you. And if I walk away, I'll give you feathers. And, well, yeah, that was moment. And I was like, okay, we are talking. And it was slightly an out-of-body experience. But that's what's on his grave, this little phrase.
Good God.
And that's what Abby made when she did her wall hanging. She put all the feathers that he'd given us on this wall hang. Beautiful, really beautiful. Wow. So yes, I'm afraid I'm a bit of a hurdy-gurdy when it comes to messages from beyond. And I do think that if there's a chance that there's the energy from a soul, because after 2 weeks, in that intense moment of the feathers and the story and the everything seemed to kind of, it was like a breath out.
Yeah.
Look at me, I'm here. Oh, you got it? oh, thank God. And it kind of slowly dissipated. And then over the years, it was when there was a particularly difficult moment or the girls had done something, I'd see one.
Yeah.
And I've had friends that go, yeah, it's because you were looking. I was like, maybe I am. Maybe I am looking. But I still saw one.
Who cares?
And that's good enough for me.
And there's only one person that it matters to, and maybe the girls as well, and that's you.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter what anybody else thinks.
No, exactly.
It could be utter bollocks, but if it's helped you to get through the last 15, 16 years on your own with 2 girls who didn't have the father, who cares?
Exactly that, and booze and pills.
You've been listening to Tales from the Tannoy with Elinor Hamilton and Katy Moore, with music from Beats Bakery. This podcast was produced by Carl Svensson at Tadar Media.